Pigs X7, Land of Sleeper, album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Pigs, aka Pigs X7. They are a UK-based stoner and heavy psych metal band, and they've been at it for almost a decade though, maybe even a little bit more, I have to check. But I've had my eye on them for a while, and I think they're one of the most exciting new bands in these genres. Their debut album, Feed the Rats, I really loved it. I loved just the over-the-top song lyrics. I loved their sort of pensive, very long style song structures here. Most of them were pretty intense, and just their devotion to the sound. They obviously grew up on the sounds of Electric Wizard and Sleep. And they did the sound a lot of justice. I really did love just like their grisly approach to the genre. And they follow that up with King of Cowards. This one had even more grooves on it. It was even more in your face. And if you are a fan of anything psychedelic rock, especially in the heavier genres, these are albums that you should check out. And in 2020, they completely rocked my damn socks off with the overall crushing and exhilarating Visceral album. I did not expect to review this album, but I saw the rave reviews pile in and I checked it out and I raved about it myself. This, I thought, was their best album to date. It kind of strayed away from the monolithic song structures of their first two albums, went for a little bit more of a straightforward sound, but didn't really, take anything else away from it. Like, yes, this was a little bit easier to take in, but it was just as gnarly and revolting and sweaty. They also threw in some blackened rock and roll for the hell of it, and some really memorable choruses. I mean, Reducer. Now, it's been a few years. My expectations have been very high for this album, mostly because, honest to God, I thought the singles were really sounding sharp, and I wanted to see them take the next leap. And they do, kind of. The album starts off with Ultimate Hammer, and it's a great single. It is one of their more progressive and layered singles that I've ever heard from them. They continue to be just a band to watch in these genres. The doom metal groove is strong. It's very old school, but like most of their previous material, it works out. I've also, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but I've always been just a really big fan of their sort of weirdo blackened rock and roll that they throw into their music at times. It shows up here and it sounds great. It's sludgy, it's got these repulsive vocals, and the second half of this track is a turn for the more bluesy, and it comes off really well too. Pigs X7, they have a fantastic sound, and this track is exactly where I want to hear them. Terror's Pillow, on the other hand, is a much more pensive, much more bluesy and stripped down kind of track. It's very lonely, but it does get just as bulky, just as muscular and heavy. It's also just as sleazy as anything else you're going to hear this year. Each crashing riff just sounds so sweaty. This is definitely one for your iron pumping playlist. I mean, it is just so hulking. Like, this sounds like a modern metal track that just got left out in the sun for way too long and, melted. And somehow it's melted into some colorful ooze. Yeah, that's the Pigs X7 sound. And by the end of this track, it is a hellish blend of wailing guitars, very noisy wailing guitars, and crashing percussion. It's great. Big Rig, on the other hand, is one of the bulkiest and just standard doom metal and heavy psych and stoner metal tracks here. It's sluggish, it's meaty as anything, and it sounds great. And in true Pigs X7 fashion, when this track picks up, it is really full throttle. It is pummeling. It has this great energy. I love the groove. The breakdowns are ridiculous. Just the personality is also just so in your face. And if you haven't seen Pigs X7 live, trust me, you're gonna wanna. And the final 2 minutes here is just solo after solo, blistering solo after solo, and it's fantastic. On the other hand, the Weatherman takes a real sharp left turn into something that I wish we heard a lot more of. This is the darkest track here. This is one of the darkest Pigs X7 tracks that I have ever heard. The pacing here is ridiculous. The tension is off the charts. By all accounts, this is the risk that I wish we heard some more of here. I mean, God, the tension. Add in some chanting that is absolutely hellish. Like, by the time the guitar riff comes crashing in, I'm on the edge of my seat. It's probably my favorite deep cut here, and honest to God, it's not going to be for everyone. This one requires a lot of patience, but I think it's worth it at the end of the day. Now, this album overall is very good. It's just another very solid Pigs X7 album. But I do kind of get the feeling that they maybe held back a little bit here, at least to some extent. After hearing how great Visceral's was a few years ago, I want to see them take the next artistic leap. And we get flashes of that brilliance here. But then they really drop the ball with the final 2 tracks here. Take, for example, Atlas Stone. Listen, there's some riffs and some instrumentals with Pigs X7 that get a little meat and potatoes. They get a little cutting room floor. But they always, at least back that up with some great production, some really exhilarating performances, something to back it up. But then I hear this, and this is so entry level. We don't get any exhilarating performances here. We don't get much of anything. It just sounds very average. I think it's the worst track here, and I think it's the worst track they've put out in a really long time. I honestly couldn't wait for it to be over, and I never thought I'd be saying that. And Ball Lightning is just such a letdown because it starts off so good. That tension is here once again, the darkness, and that opening guitar line. It's awesome. It gave me the chills. But then what follows is 5.5 minutes of zero progression whatsoever. I'm pretty shocked at how average it is as a finale. I know that they could do a lot more. But still, they're a band to watch in these genres for a reason. And at the end of the day, their sound is just so electric right now. I really do love the Mr. Medicine single. I've loved it since it dropped. It shows them really working on a tight groove, really sinking their teeth into it. That blackened rock and roll, man, it's back. Much like Reducer did for Visceral's, it's just catchy enough and just instantaneous enough to be a pretty good starting point if you're looking to get into this album. Hell, it's anthemic even when it gets to that shouted chorus. It's great. And Pipe Down, for me, this is just ear candy, man. This is great. I love the epic. It's very, very epic, but it's also chaotic and noisy, this riff. But it sounds so good. And once this muscular groove comes in, we are home. We get some really intense vocals and some drum fills to die for. This is great. And the final instrumental minute of just a jam that we get here, it's just what I wanted to hear. It's just the icing on the cake that I needed. This is a very good album. This is a very solid album from Pigs X7. I mean, if you're kind of in the same boat as me, then maybe you wish that they, took that next big artistic leap after Visceral's. Because I do still think it's the better album. But their sound is still so electric. They work grooves so great. Every riff is muscular. Every vocal performance, for the most part, is just so in your face and disgusting. The production is solid too. And the nods, the brief nods that we get to a darker sound, are so promising. I just wish that they didn't drop the ball completely in the final 2 tracks here, because they did, and they really played it safe, and I wasn't expecting to say that. But still, very decent album from Pigs X7. If you're into the weirder side of rock, especially the psychedelic variety, check it out. Feeling a decent 7 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.